They thought he was an easy target. Just another black man alone in a backwater diner. But when their racist taunts crossed the line, they learned too late that some storms come wrapped in silence. Some predators walk among prey, and some men have seen too much war to fear small-town hatred. Isaiah Jackson felt their stares the moment he stepped inside. The Crossroads diner fell silent, conversations dying mid-sentence. The neon open sign buzzed behind him, a false promise of welcome. On this forgotten stretch of highway, nothing but empty road for miles, and now this. 5 leather-clad bikers eyeing him with undisguised contempt, like wolves catching an unexpected scent. Isaiah cut the engine and sat for a moment, rolling his shoulders to ease the tension of 8 hours of driving. Through the smudged windows of the diner, he could make out a handful of patrons, locals from the look of them. A place like this didn't see many strangers, and those they did see weren't always welcome. He adjusted his faded navy baseball cap, checked his wallet, and stepped out into the dry heat. The crunch of gravel under his boots seemed to echo across the empty parking lot. Only 2 other vehicles sat nearby, a rusted-out sedan that had probably been there since morning, and a row of gleaming motorcycles, chrome winking in the sunlight. The bell above the door jangled as Isaiah stepped inside. The diner smelled of burnt coffee and yesterday's grease, a scent as familiar as it was uninviting. Conversations died. Silverware stopped clinking against plates. Eyes turned, curious, cautious, cold. Isaiah kept his gaze level, his posture relaxed. He'd walked into rooms far more dangerous than this one. "Sit anywhere you like, honey," called a waitress from behind the counter, her smile not quite reaching her tired eyes. He nodded politely and chose a booth near the back, one with a clear view of both the entrance and the kitchen doors. Old habits. At the counter, a group of 5 bikers sat hunched over plates of half-eaten food, their leather vests emblazoned with patches Isaiah recognized immediately. The Iron Sons, a small-time motorcycle club with a big-time reputation for trouble. They'd gone quiet when he entered, and now their attention fixed on him like predators scenting blood. Isaiah didn't react. He picked up the laminated menu and studied it with practiced indifference. The waitress approached, notepad in hand. Her name tag read, Ruby. "What can I get you?" she asked, voice low, eyes darting nervously toward the bikers. "Coffee, black." "And the burger special," Isaiah replied softly. She nodded and hurried away, clearly sensing the tension building in her diner. One of the bikers, a hulking man with a graying beard and arms covered in faded tattoos, swiveled on his stool to face Isaiah directly. "Don't get many of your kind passing through here," he called out, voice pitched to carry across the diner. Isaiah turned a page in the menu, unhurried. The biker's eyes narrowed. "You hear me talking to you, boy?" The word hung in the air like a storm cloud. The other patrons, an elderly couple by the window, a truck driver nursing a coffee at the far end of the counter, suddenly found their meals fascinating. Isaiah set the menu down and met the man's gaze evenly. "I heard you," he said, voice calm, controlled. Just didn't hear a question worth answering. The biker's face darkened. He pushed himself off the stool and sauntered over to Isaiah's booth, 4 others peeling away from the counter to follow. Their boots scraped against the linoleum floor, a deliberate sound meant to intimidate. The leader planted his palms on Isaiah's table, leaning forward. A patch on his vest read, "Hammer." "You got a smart mouth," Hammer said, breath reeking of cigarettes and cheap whiskey. "Folks around here, we got certain ways, certain expectations about respect." Isaiah remained perfectly still. I'm just here for a meal, not looking for trouble. A thin biker with a face like a ferret snickered. Hear that, Hammer? He ain't looking for trouble. Hammer's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. Thing is, trouble has a way of finding some people. Ruby returned with Isaiah's coffee, her hand trembling slightly as she set it down. She glanced worriedly between Isaiah and the bikers. "Everything okay here, gentlemen?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Just having a friendly chat with our new friend," Hammer replied without looking at her. "Ain't that right?" Isaiah nodded to Ruby. "Everything's fine, ma'am. Thank you for the coffee." She hesitated, then retreated toward the kitchen, throwing one last concerned glance over her shoulder. Isaiah wrapped his hands around the coffee mug, his movements deliberate, measured. Steam rose between him and Hammer like a veil. "Your food will be out in a minute," Hammer mocked. "But maybe you should consider taking it to go. Some places just ain't hospitable to everyone, if you catch my meaning." The elderly woman by the window stood up suddenly, her husband leaving money on the table as they hurried toward the exit. The bell jangled as they escaped into the afternoon. Isaiah took a sip of his coffee, the hot liquid bitter on his tongue. He set the mug down carefully. "I already ordered," he said simply. "I intend to eat." Hammer's nostrils flared. "You're not understanding me." "I understand perfectly." Isaiah's voice remained level. "I also understand that I'm sitting here minding my business, and you're standing there looking for something you don't want to find." The ferret-faced biker moved closer, circling to Isaiah's left. "Hammer, I think this boy needs a geography lesson. Show him where he is." The diner had gone completely silent now. Even the cook had stopped the sizzle of the grill to watch through. "The service window." Hammer straightened up, crossing his arms over his chest. "Last chance. Finish your coffee and hit the road." Isaiah looked up at him, his eyes calm but somehow different now, focused, present in a way that made Hammer hesitate for just a second. "Or what?" Isaiah asked quietly. The challenge hung in the air. Hammer's jaw clenched. "Or we escort you out ourselves," he growled. "And trust me, you won't like our manners." Isaiah nodded slowly, as if considering the offer. Then he sighed. Not a sound of fear, but something closer to resignation. "I spent 12 years with the Green Berets," he said, his voice so soft the bikers had to lean in to hear him. 4 combat tours. I've been shot at by better men than you, and I've buried better men than you. Now I'm going to finish my coffee. Eat my burger when it comes, and then I'll be on my way. That's how this ends." For a moment, nobody moved. Something in Isaiah's eyes, or maybe his voice, made Hammer take half a step back. Then the ferret-faced biker laughed, a high, nervous sound. "Listen to this guy. Thinks he's Rambo or something." Hammer's confidence returned. He slammed his fist on the table, making the coffee slosh over the rim of the mug. "You threatening us, boy?" he snarled. Isaiah didn't flinch. "No, just telling you how the next few minutes will go. Your choice if you want to be standing or lying down when I leave." The largest of the bikers, a mountain of a man with a shaved head, moved forward. "Let me handle this, Hammer. Been a while since I had a good workout." Hammer grinned, stepping aside. "Be my guest, bulldozer." Ruby emerged from the kitchen, a plate in her hands. She froze when she saw the standoff. "Please," she said, voice shaking. "Not in here. Earl will call the sheriff." "Earl ain't calling nobody," Hammer shot back, "unless he wants us coming back every day this month." Isaiah's eyes flicked to Ruby. "It's okay. You might want to step back, though." The giant called Bulldozer lunged forward, meaty hands reaching for Isaiah's collar. What happened next seemed impossible to the watching patrons. Isaiah moved like water. One moment he was sitting, the next he was standing, having slipped aside from Bulldozer's grasp. The big man stumbled, caught off balance. Before he could recover, Isaiah's hand found pressure points at his wrist and elbow. A simple twist, a controlled redirect of momentum, and Bulldozer crashed face first into the booth, the table edge catching him across the ribs. The air left Bulldozer's lungs in a pained whoosh. He crumpled to the floor, gasping. The diner erupted into chaos. The ferret-faced biker pulled a knife from his boot, slashing wildly. Isaiah stepped inside the arc of the blade, caught the man's wrist, and applied pressure to tendons that instantly numbed the attacker's fingers. The knife clattered to the floor. A precise strike to the solar plexus, and Ferret-Face joined it, curled into a fetal position. 2 down in the space of heartbeats, the high. Third biker, younger than the others, with a patchy attempt at a beard, charged forward swinging a chain. Isaiah ducked under the wild swing, stepped past the biker's guard, and delivered a short, sharp elbow to the sternum. As the young biker doubled over, Isaiah guided him gently but firmly to the ground. "Stay down," he advised quietly. "No need. For hospital bills." Hammer and the last biker, a wiry man with a face full of scars, backed away, eyes wide with disbelief. "What the hell?" Scarface muttered. Isaiah straightened up, adjusted his cap, and looked at Hammer. His breathing hadn't even quickened. "Still want to have that conversation?" he asked. Hammer's face twisted with rage and humiliation. With a roar, he charged, pulling brass knuckles from his pocket as he came. Isaiah sidestepped, caught Hammer's extended arm, and used the biker's own momentum to drive him into the wall. Plaster cracked. Hammer bounced off and swung wildly with his free hand. Isaiah blocked, redirected, and applied targeted pressure to nerve clusters that sent lightning bolts of pain up Hammer's arm. The brass knuckles fell from suddenly numb fingers. Isaiah kicked them away. Scarface, seeing his friends dispatched so efficiently, made the only sensible choice. He ran, the bell above the door jangling violently as he fled into the parking lot. Isaiah released Hammer, who slid down the wall to sit dazed on the floor. The entire confrontation had taken less than 30 seconds. The diner remained frozen, in shock. Ruby stood with her mouth open, the plate of food still clutched in her trembling hands. Isaiah straightened his shirt, glanced at the men groaning on the floor, and returned calmly to his booth. He picked up his coffee mug, somehow still upright, and took a sip. "My burger ready?" he asked Ruby. She blinked rapidly, then nodded, approaching cautiously to set the plate in front of him. On the house," she stammered. Isaiah smiled. "Gently. No need for that. I'll pay my bill like anyone else." The cook emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron. "Should I call the sheriff?" Isaiah glanced at the bikers, who were slowly recovering, none seriously injured but all thoroughly subdued. "I don't think that's necessary unless these gentlemen want to press charges," he replied, taking a bite of his burger. "Which I don't recommend." Hammer struggled to his feet, leaning against the wall for support. His eyes burned with hatred and humiliation. But something else flickered there too. Fear. "This ain't over," he spat, though the threat sounded hollow even to his own ears. Isaiah chewed thoughtfully, swallowed, and took another sip of coffee before responding. "It is over," he said simply. "You just don't know it yet." The remaining bikers pulled themselves off the floor, gathering their wounded pride along with their fallen friend who was still struggling to breathe normally. "We're iron sons," Hammer growled as they limped toward the door. "We don't forget." Isaiah nodded. Neither do I. The bell jangled as they left, the sound oddly cheerful in the tense aftermath. The truck driver at the counter let out a low whistle. "Damn," he muttered. "Never seen anything like that in my life." Ruby hovered nearby, refilling Isaiah's coffee, though his mug was still half full. "You really military?" she asked quietly. Isaiah nodded. "Was. Not anymore." "Where'd you learn to do that?" He took another bite of his burger before answering. "Lots of places, none of them pleasant." The cook approached, drying his hands on a towel. "Those boys will be back, you know, with more of their kind." Isaiah shrugged. "I'll be gone by then. Just passing through." "Where you headed?" Ruby asked. "Home," Isaiah replied. "Brother's wedding in Atlanta. Been away too long." The diner gradually returned to something resembling normalcy. The truck driver finished his meal. The cook returned to his grill. Ruby served coffee to a new customer who'd entered, oblivious to what had transpired minutes earlier. Isaiah ate methodically, savoring each bite as if the confrontation had never happened. But his eyes remained alert, his posture ready. Through the window, he could see the bikers gathered around their motorcycles, arguing among themselves. When he finished his meal, he left cash on the table, enough to cover his bill plus a generous tip and something extra for the damaged wall. He nodded to Ruby as he stood. "Thank you for the meal," he said. She touched his arm lightly. "Be careful out there. Those men—" "I'll be fine," he assured her. "But I appreciate your concern." The bell jangled one last time as Isaiah stepped into the late afternoon sun. The parking lot was empty now. The bikers had fled, licking their wounds and plotting revenge that would never come. Isaiah climbed into his truck and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, he could see Ruby watching from the window, a hand raised in farewell. He nodded once in acknowledgement, then pulled out onto the highway, the diner shrinking in his mirror until it was just another memory in a life full of places best forgotten. Miles down the road, Isaiah rolled down his window, letting the wind wash over him. His phone buzzed with a text from his brother. "How far out are you?" "About 4 hours," he typed back. "Had a small delay. Nothing serious." He set the phone down and focused on the road ahead. The confrontation was already fading from his mind. Not the first, probably not the last. After what he'd seen overseas, after the battles that had left both visible and invisible scars, incidents like this barely registered. The sunset painted the sky in colors no camera could capture. Isaiah turned on the radio, letting soft jazz fill the cab. His shoulders relaxed gradually as the miles rolled by. In the Crossroads diner, the story was already growing with each retelling. By nightfall, Ruby would describe to her husband how a single man had taken down 5 armed bikers without breaking a sweat. The cook would tell his poker buddies about the warrior who fought like a ghost, there and not there. The truck driver would spread the tale up and down the interstate, and somewhere in the darkness, 5 bikers nursed their wounds and their pride, learning too late the lesson that appearances deceive, that quiet strength outmatches loud aggression, and that some people, no matter their color, are best left undisturbed. Isaiah drove on through the gathering darkness, focused on tomorrow, on family, on home. The road stretched before him like a promise of distance, of escape, of peace. For now, at least, he had found what most soldiers seek, a moment of quiet after the storm. The truck's headlights cut through the night, illuminating only what lay directly ahead. Behind him, the past receded with each mile, Not forgotten, never that, but temporarily outrun.